Dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform. Now we have reached week 4. In this week, we will discuss about the rest of the discussion of Beowulf. It includes some selected keywords, major themes and symbols in Beowulf. Me, Faisal Ahmed, with you throughout this lecture as usual. Let's begin. First of all, we would like to discuss about some keywords. Already some keywords we discussed in the previous week, week 3. And this week we will discuss some other selected keywords from Beowulf. The cup was carried to him, and a wealth of gold graciously bestowed. Quoted by the narrator in lines 852 to 1250, the celebration. These lines reflect on both Beowulf and King Hrothgar. Through the gifts of gold, Hrothgar not only honors Beowulf and rewards his bravery, but he also demonstrates his own generosity, as dictated by the heroic code. Next quote. It is always better to avenge dear ones than to indulge in mourning. Quoted by Beowulf in lines 1251 to 1904. Danger returns. This statement is spoken after Grendel's mother kills Aschere. Again, he speaks to Beowulf's understanding of the heroic code, that it is always crucial to act in a courageous manner. In this case, that means exacting vengeance. Next quote. After many trials, he was destined to face the end of his days, as was the dragon. By the narrator, in lines 2510 to 2891. Beowulf's final battle and his death. Here the poet foreshadows the outcome of Beowulf's final battle. After the many conflicts Beowulf easily won in his youth, now in old age he feels vulnerable. Although he intends to slay the dragon without assistance, he realizes he may not survive the encounter. He puts his life on the line to save his people from the dragon. The dragon fights to defend his treasure. When the combatants mortally wound each other, each dies protecting what he values most. Next quote. Defend your life now with the whole of your strength. I shall stand by you. Quoted by Wiglaf in lines 2510 to 2891, Beowulf's final battle. Here Wiglaf refers to the heroic code, calling upon Beowulf to be courageous and honorable to the last. He declares that he also will act in accordance with the code in standing by Beowulf and assisting in the fight against the dragon. Next quote. I give thanks to God for all this gold and treasure that I see before me, and for the opportunity to give it to my countrymen on this, my last day. I have traded my life for this treasure, so be sure to use it for the good of our country. These lines have been quoted by Beowulf in lines 2892 to 3182, the last lines of Beowulf, and these was over Beowulf's funeral. Beowulf has just given his life to take the dragon's treasure. Through his action he has valiantly defeated evil and greed. By giving the treasure to his people, he is also fulfilling the heroic code's demands for a generous ruler. However, in this moment, he questions whether wealth was worth the loss of his life. Next quote. They said that of all the kings upon the earth, he was the man most gracious and fair-minded, kindest to his people, and keenest to win fame. By the narrator in lines 2892 to 3182 over Beowulf's funeral. In this tribute and the concluding lines, Beowulf, after Beowulf's death, the Geats honor Beowulf as a great king, listing the characteristics of a great leader, such as courage, strength, generosity, and the capability to govern wisely. These characteristics again reflect those promoted in the heroic code. That's the end of the discussion of some selected quotes. Now we will discuss about some symbols appeared in Beowulf, the English epic. Though the source is Danish. Here we'll discuss about three symbols in Beowulf. One is Grendel, the other is dragon, and the third one is Hiroto. First of all, Grendel. So what does Grendel symbolize? Grendel symbolizes evil and jealousy. He is a descendant of Cain, the biblical character who jealously murdered his brother Abel, a crime for which his descendants, including Grendel, were banished. Grendel lives with his mother in a bloody swamp. The heroine setting for their banishment, where he jealously films about the din of the loud banquet in Hirotol each night. He feasts on Danish warriors, proving his strength over the celebrated heroes. When Beowulf defeats Grendel, it is a classic literary example of good triumphing over evil. Next symbol, the dragon. The dragon symbolizes greed. He hoards gold and treasures in his lair, which represents the opposite of the Anglo-Saxons' accepted practice. As demonstrated in Beowulf, gold is to be used by the ring givers or kings to reward the deeds of heroes, particularly successful warriors returning from conquest. The dragon, having seized the treasure left behind by the last survivor, does nothing with the gold, simply hoarding the riches instead. The last survivor could himself be seen as a hoarder. He collected the treasures of his dead civilization and put them to no use. Another example of the dragon's greed is demonstrated after a runaway slave steals a single golden goblet from his lair. Searching for the thief, the dragon burns Beowulf's home and whole villages in his kingdom, all in vengeance over the theft of a single cup. So greed destroys everything. Greed is destructive, and it is one of the 7 deadly sins mentioned also in Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus. Hirotol. Hirotol is a symbol not only of happiness and pride, but also of distress. The great hall is Hrothgar's legacy, built to honor great warriors and their accomplishments. It is meant to be a refuge where members of the court and the realm's warriors can gather to feast and celebrate. The Grendel has held Hirotol under attack for 12 years, represents a case of situational irony. The people's safe haven has undergone a reversal from bliss to grief. Now major themes. The major themes in Beowulf are heroic code, good versus evil, loyalty, death and defeat, and hospitality. Then we will discuss some glossary in Beowulf. Heroic code, the first theme. This theme, found in Beowulf and other Anglo-Saxon, Germanic and Greek tales or epics, is made up of a set of rules governing honorable behavior primarily for warriors and rulers. To conform to the heroic code, warriors were expected to be courageous, loyal, and strong. Their loyalty to their ruler was never in question. In fact, they would be willing to sacrifice everything, including their lives, in order to protect those to whom they are loyal. Rulers were expected to display great generosity in rewarding those who served them. They are also expected to be capable of governing wisely. Good versus evil. Beowulf and Hrothgar are the two main representatives of good in the poem Beowulf, while Grendel, his mother, and the dragon embody the concept of evil. While Grendel, his mother, and the dragon battle only because of their hatred and greed, Beowulf goes into conflict on behalf of others, and when given rewards, shares them rather than retaining the riches for himself. Beowulf's victory over the three monsters is described as almost biblical battles of superhuman strength and courage against evil incarnate. Loyalty, the next theme. Loyalty was a guiding force during the period in which Beowulf was written and is evident within the poem. The theme of loyalty appears multiple times in Beowulf's actions. The loyalty is passed on from generation to generation, as seen by Beowulf's loyalty to King Hrothgar. He was loyal to Hrothgar for several reasons. Hrothgar was his king and had saved his father's life, and Beowulf honored the long-term loyalty shared by his father and King Hrothgar. Beowulf displayed loyalty to King Hygelac to Geatland, giving him much of the reward that King Hrothgar had bestowed on Beowulf, and serving Hygelac steadfastly until the king's death. When offered the crown upon Hygelac's death, Beowulf instead declared that Prince Heardred should be king, and then served the young king loyally. Only at the death of King Heardred did Beowulf accept the crown and then ruled Geatland for 50 years. Next themes, death and defeat. Although people may live heroic lives and win many battles, death eventually defeats everyone. Along with the various works they leave behind. The Keeper of Rings, sad that his civilization has passed away, hides his people's splendid treasures for safekeeping, and the dragon guards the riches for hundreds of years. Yet death claims them both, and Wiglaf finds that much of the treasure also has perished, fallen victim to tarnish and rust. The strength and courage called for in the heroic code help warriors fight against death, as Beowulf tells Hrothgar, who laments the death of his friend Aestir. It is always better to avenge dear ones than to indulge in mourning. In the end, Beowulf meets his defeat and death, slain by the dragon's poisonous bite, delivered in the same conflict in which he killed the dragon. The sting of death is lessened for Beowulf by the knowledge that he will be given a funeral worthy of a hero. Hospitality, the last but not the least theme in Beowulf. For rulers such as King Hrothgar and King Hygelac, a significant part of the heroic code relates to generosity and hospitality. Visiting nobility and warriors returning from conflict expect to be hosted at grand banquets in the king's mead hall. The 12 years of terror that Grendel brought to Heorot Hall took the lives of many of Hrothgar's subjects and also disrupted the governing of the kingdom. Without the use of his hall, Hrothgar could not offer the hospitality expected. There's little wonder, therefore, that the feasts held to celebrate Beowulf's arrival and his victories over Grendel and Grendel's mother show such an outpouring of generous hospitality. Glossary: Alacrity, barrow, bound, bewail, fen, girdle, great, harrow, husp, heath, hoe, manacle, meat. So these are some example of glossaries that you can find in Beowulf. The difficult words. You can also look for this words in dictionary, a good dictionary, Oxford, Cambridge, or Longman dictionaries. Okay. Alacrity means a joyful willingness to complete a task. Barrow means a mound of rocks or dirt placed on top of a burial chamber. Bound, a protective wall surrounding Heorot Hall. Bewail, to express regret, grief, or disappointment. Fen means bog, swamp, or other low wet area or marsh area. Girdle means to go around the body like a belt. Great means equipment needed for battle. Harrow means to distress or torment. In wartime, to pillage or plunder. Hasp means device used to fasten a door or lid. Heath means an area of land that is left natural, usually not suitable for farming or cultivation, covered in vegetation. Hoe means hoe is a synonym for barrow, a mound of rocks or dirt placed on top of a burial chamber. So barrow and hoe are the same thing. Manacle means bind at the hands or feet by some kind of shackles. Head mead, an alcoholic beverage created with honey and water, as well as other ingredients like hops, fruit, and spices. Mere means a lake, pond, or narrow inlet of the sea. Pyre means a large pile of burnable materials used in funeral ceremony to burn bodies. Rampart means a wall-like barrier that provides protection for a castle or fort. Scourge means a whip used to administer punishment. Thane means a man in high position with the king, often someone who was granted land by the king. Thole means to tolerate or induce. Torque means metal collar or neck chain worn in ancient times. Venerable means worthy of respect because of age, position, character, or deeds. That's all for this week. Thank you very much for being with me. with more discussion and a new text. With a new text in the next week 5. That's all. Bye bye.